You want this board back.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, thank you for volunteering for my Girl Scout project. I'll just videotape you answering some easy questions, and if you want to stop at any time, just let me know, okay?
Be glad to.
Okay, what is your full name and age?
My name is Marion, Marion, initial F, last name Cramp, C-R-A-M-P.
Okay.
Oh, and we want to hold on. I'm going to be 95 on Saturday.
Wow. Okay, were you an immigrant or a natural-born citizen?
I was a natural-born citizen.
Okay.
However, I'm a first-generation American because my parents came over from Italy. And but I was born here, and my brother was born here, and a sister was born in Canada, and two were born in Italy.
Okay. Have you ever been to Italy?
Yes,
Yes.
several trips. Right.
Cool. Do you want to talk about those, or?
Well, each time I was with a travel group, so I was limited on where I could stay. So I never did go to where my parents were born because I didn't have enough time on the trip. We saw Venice and Rome and Milan and what else? I can't think of offhand, but all the big cities in Italy. And that were my parents. My parents were born north of Venice, but I didn't get there.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
Well, my husband was in the Navy, so one of our duty stations was Hawaii, so I would have to guess that probably is my favorite spot. We spent a lot of time in California, in Washington, so we would travel back and forth from Washington to California. Oh,
Okay. Where did you grow up? What was it like living there?
my grandson interviewed me once, and he wanted to know if there were airplanes. And I have to say there were. I didn't fly on any, but there were airplanes. And what was the question?
Where did you grow up?
Oh, Minneapolis.
Yeah.
That's in Minnesota. Do you know where that is?
Yes.
Okay.
Minnesota. Okay.
So many people here are not aware of anything west of the Mississippi because they're either from New Jersey, New York, or Florida. And if I bring up Minnesota, nobody really sure where that is. I say it's not an Indian reservation. There are really a lot of nice places there, including where I was born.
Okay. Was segregation prevalent where you were born?
Well, not being the South, there was not much of a problem because we didn't have that many black people there. It was too cold for a lot of people, a lot of races. So I don't recall that we had much. There may have been some that I was not aware of. But
Okay. Have you ever met anyone famous or interesting?
who would that be? Who would that be? A lot of interesting people, but no one in the news or who are well known.
Okay. You can talk about them even if people don't know who they are, if they were interesting.
Well, I just can't seem to pinpoint one person. Could we skip that one?
Sure. What is the most fun or interesting thing you have ever done?
I took flying lessons, and I had to pay for them myself, so I was limited on how long I could fly. 22 solo hours. that's the extent of it. I wanted to go into the Women's Air Force, but I got married.
Huh? And
So
then
I
you couldn't.
never did.
What sort of a plane did you fly in?
Sorry.
What kind of plane did you fly in?
A space Taylorcraft. And actually, the novelty on there was that I flew in the wintertime, so the plane had skis to land for landing. But as I say, that's as far as I went.
Do you regret not going on farther?
Well, I'm sorry I didn't join the Women's Air Force because I felt that I really didn't do my part for World War II. I wasn't a wave or a whack or I wasn't even an airplane spotter. You ever heard of those people that would call up if they saw a foreign airplane that didn't belong where they lived? They would call into the headquarters and tell them whether they seen the plane. But I would like to have been a nurse. But I feel as if I didn't do my part. But
Do you have a lot of memories from World War II?
well, there wasn't much going on in Minnesota. A hard time remembering. I can't even remember yesterday, so that was a long time ago. What's the next question?
Next one. What is the greatest injustice you have ever witnessed?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I wish I had more time to. You know what might be a good idea is for you to give that list of questions to somebody they could study what the questions were going to be so they'd have an answer, because offhand some of these things I don't have an answer for.
Okay, do you want me to come back another time and after you've studied the questions?
Well, you've got an awful lot ahead of you. Is there much more to for me?
There's 5 more questions.
Oh. Well, let's try a few more.
Okay. Tell your favorite story about your spouse.
About what?
About your spouse?
Your husband.
My husband. Oh, my
Yeah.
husband. Oh, my spouse. He was born in the States, but he was raised in Canada and played hockey there. And then his coach from Minnesota went up and had him transfer to an American college so that he could play hockey. So he was in the hockey team that won the national hockey championship in '41 and was supposed to go to the Olympics, but that's when they canceled the Olympics that year because of World War II. That was a big highlight in our life, but he never did get to go. So that was a disappointment.
Okay. Talk about your children. How many did you have, and how fun or hard were they to raise?
Well, there are four of them. The girl is the oldest, and then 3 boys. And I can't remember any problems. They were raised during the marijuana age, but I never had a problem with them. And one of them smoked, and he still smokes, and I don't like that. But it has to be a personal desire to quit smoking, and he hadn't.
Do you want to talk about your grandchildren too?
Yes, I have 16 of those, and let's see, 8 of the grandchildren. Let's see, three of them are married and have children, and then they're the I don't know what I'm trying to thinking of. The children of children.
Great-grandchildren?
Pardon?
Great-grandchildren?
Yes, thank you. You ought to sit closer and prompt me because I'm forgetting you so many things. Yeah, they're all, the oldest great-grandchild just became a teenager. And she's a volleyball player, not a volleyball player. It's the other one that's a volleyball player. One of the granddaughters is 6'6". Do you know how tall that is?
It's really tall.
And she plays volleyball for college in Boston someplace. And but the great granddaughter plays softball. That's it. And she's now in her first year of high school, so she's trying out for the high school team. And the granddaughter played soccer for Virginia Tech, and she played all the way through graduation, senior. So there are more athletes than musicians in my family, which is too bad because they get to a point where they can't skate anymore or kick a softball. So if they played music, they'd have some other sport.
Do you play a musical instrument? No.
I kept telling my children that I wish I could play the piano. So when I was 75 years old, they gave me a piano, but I didn't practice, so they took it back. Gave it to somebody else.
Okay. Have you ever broken the law?
Oh, I stayed over long on a parking meter. That's about it.
Did you get a ticket?
Yes, because I had left my children in the car and told them to put money in the parking meter, and they didn't pay attention. It was too late.
Oh.
I got a ticket. That's not very important, is it?
Yeah, no.
I don't have to go to jail or anything.
No.
Okay.
You're not going to go to jail for that. Tell your favorite holiday story with your family.
I don't. Did we run out of film?
No, it's okay.
I have to answer that then. They were all special. They were all special. Many years at home with my parents, and then many years in wherever we were in the Navy. I remember spending Christmas Day on the beach in Hawaii. That was fun. No snow.
Which island in Hawaii?
Oahu.
Oahu.
Yeah.
Do you have any Italian traditions that you do for the holidays?
I'm sorry?
Italian traditions.
Any traditions?
Like Italian traditions that you do for the holidays?
I think they were too poor when they were living there, and they may have had something. Well, I know the first year that I remember, after I was born in Minnesota, I used a man's stocking. We didn't have the fancy stockings with our name on it, but just a man's stocking. And I remember getting a silver dollar and an orange in the toe of the stocking, and that candy with the rippled candy. What was that?
Ribbon candy.
Ribbon candy, sticking all with fuzz from the stocking, but we managed to wash it off and eat it. But it was very, very poor.
Mm-hmm.
But we thought it was great because we didn't know better. Now my great-grandchildren have toys up the wall, and they look at one and toss it aside. So I do not give my grandchildren toys, or great-grandchildren. I start the wall with a stock, so that they would learn to use the stock market sheet. And I add to it every birthday, so it keeps growing, and that's their college fund. But they have much nicer Christmases than
Okay. Do you have any other interesting stories you'd like to share?
I'm not an interesting person.
Yes, you are. You're very interesting.
No, I can't think of any special occasions. I guess the fact that I've lived this long was been special.
Mhm.
But
How did you end up back here in DC after Hawaii and all the different places you were?
well, because this was the last place my husband was stationed, and we had kept our house, fortunately. So every time we came back, we could go back into our house, and he actually retired here. So, and we stayed because he retired when our middle boy went to the Naval Academy. And then Tom, the youngest one, went in the Navy flying P-3s, which were submarine hunters. And the older one actually had gone through basic training, but when he got to Florida, they discovered he was colorblind. And he had hoped to fly, but he couldn't, so he stayed in they kept him for 6 months, and then he got out. So they have all had a touch of the Navy. And
Nice.
that's why I wish that I had done more in World War II, so I could be part of the Navy.
Do you have any memories from any other wars, like the Cold War or Vietnam?
Now, my brother went to Korea, and he had some stories to tell about Korea, but of course, I didn't, so I couldn't have any kind of memories about that. But I'm glad you didn't ask me which war I was born into, because everybody here talks about the Civil War, but I was not part of the Civil War. I was, and not a really active part of World War II, except that I stayed home and waited for my husband to come back, and he did.
That's good.
How did your family end up in Minnesota from Italy?
Well, when my dad came over first, and when he came through
Ellis Island?
Yes. They were not taking people from southern Europe. And so he went to Canada. So that when my mother and the 2 children came over, they went right to Canada. And then they filtered down into Minnesota, which is on the border of Canada. And that's how we...
What did your father do?
He was a terrazzo. Do you know what terrazzo is? It's the famous, or not the famous, the artwork in floors.
Yes, tile work.
Sort of, yes.
But making it into like a design that's...
Right.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Wow.
And,
How did your parents meet?
oh boy, I don't know, sweetie.
You don't know?
I don't know. I have no idea. And you know, I'm so pleased that you're being curious, because I was never curious about where my parents came from, or why they came, or where they met. I don't even know what ship they came over on. If I had any idea what the date was. I can on the computer I can get the name of the ship,
Uh-huh.
but
Yeah.
I don't know that. I didn't ask them.
Uh-huh.
How did you meet your husband?
Well, he was staying with an aunt who, you know what alleys are? In Minneapolis, there were alleys, and he lived across with his aunt across the alley while he was going to the University of Minnesota. And we would play baseball, and my family would play baseball in the alley, and he would come by because the house behind us had a pump, and he would get fresh pump water. So he played baseball or came to get water, whatever. And there I was. So we had I want to say we have a very casual courtship because he was at the University of Minnesota and had no money, and I was a secretary and not making very much money. So our big date was to go have a root beer float at the A&W place. You put that in?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Can I censor this after you finish?
I can edit it if you want to.
But that's about all I can think of of any interest. See, I'm not an interesting person.
Well, even if you have a story that you don't think is interesting, maybe other people will think it's interesting.
You're very kind. And I'm sorry I didn't remember about this. We could have could have done it earlier, but I didn't
Today?
remember. In fact, a couple of things I've forgotten for today. When you get to be my age, you're allowed to forget things.
You
Isn't
are.
that right?
Mm-hmm.
You are. Well, I think a root beer float is a great date.
Yeah.
You went,
I think a root beer float is a great date.
oh, do you?
They taste good too. So.
Yeah, we'd bicycle to it too. He didn't have a car, so it was very, very poor. You have parents that are still living?
I do. I
How
do.
old are they?
84 and 85.
They're pushing 90.
Yeah.
Are they in good health?
Yes, they're in very good health.
That's good.
They are. They still go out dancing on Saturday nights.
Do they?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that great? Where do they go?
There's a place in Lorton that they have dances.
Oh,
So
I used to love to dance, but I broke my leg a year ago, I think it was. And so I have to use a walker. Can't dance anymore.
they actually have a little group and they dance with canes.
Really?
They flip the canes around.
I'd love to see that. Good for them. Good for them.
So it's kind of fun.
Well, are you going to see Mrs. Reale today, or?
Not today.
Oh,
When she sign up,
Next Wednesday.
I think so. Yep, she signed up for Thursday, the 24th.
oh.
So I'll see her then.
Well, you're doing a nice job. I hope you get lots of patches for that.
I'll get my gold award, which is like the Eagle Scout award, but
Oh, wonderful.
for girls.
They have a ceremony?
Mm-hmm.
They will.
Yeah.
And you'll get a copy of your interview.
Oh, good. You mean that'll go on paper?
Mm.
Uh-huh.